I would hope that we all, whether Christian, non-Christian, Asian or not, like really check ourselves and be honest with ourselves of what kind of love are we really showing our fellow man.
Rodney Agura on the podcast, people. Let's get the air horns right away off the jump. Rodney.
Yes, sir.
You are finally here on the podcast. One of the first people I thought of when I started this podcast that I knew I wanted to get on. I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about exactly. But there are certain situations, circumstances that are happening in the world that I know you have a lot to talk about, a lot of value to bring, a lot of perspective, a lot of awareness to bring. So let's get right into it. The movement that I've gotten into with Ryan Johnson in a previous podcast episode of Stop Asian Hate, that is still happening, that is still occurring. You are still posting stuff that is still occurring, and it's been happening for a while. What do you think about the whole situation with what's going on with the Asian community, Asian culture, stuff like that?
Oh, man. Well, first off, I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Honored. I have a lot to say because I feel like it's very layered. Obviously, I'm Asian, although my 23andMe says I'm sub-Saharan African, and I'm Portuguese, and I'm Mexican.
Rodney sometimes identifies as black, but you can be the judge of that.
I am proud. But on the real, like, at first I had nothing to say about it. And, big ups to you, Julius, Carlos, out there.
Shout out to them.
Yeah. You guys hit me up on the side, out of the blue, asking me how I felt about it. And at first, my initial response really is just the response that is in all Asians, I would say, representing the Asian community. We're raised to be passive. I don't even know if we were raised. It's just in us to be passive and to just maintain honor. But, just to go back, I guess the reason why it's so layered to me is I would say at first I took on the attitude of, like, if it ain't hitting me then I really don't care.
Yeah.
But it reminded me, all these videos reminded me not only of how I grew up, being the only, I grew up in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, where I would be walking down the street and people would, like, do the little Chinese eyes.
Yeah.
Ask me if I was Bruce Lee's nephew or whatever, you know what I mean? We would clown. There wasn't a lot of Asians where I grew up. I grew up in Carson and or the whole South Bay Harbor area where it was rough out there at that time.
Yeah.
And, I was the kid. Like, when you guys asked me, I had to really think. I drove out to Vegas. I had 4 hours to really think about what I felt about all this. And I really remember being 9 years old. All the kids that I grew up with were white, Mexican, blacks, Samoans. But I remember there was one of the neighbors, old neighbors, Mr. Blythe. He had a pool. And we got invited. They all were going to go swim. But when we got to the house, I was the only one that they didn't let swim.
Really?
Yeah. And so I remember an image of me holding my towel waiting for my uncle to pick me up. And I remember how I felt. I felt confused. I felt kind of like wanted to be angry, but I was like 9. I just didn't get it. They didn't
let you swim because of your race?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't make nothing of it at first. Yeah. Because being clowned on was kind of normal anyways to me. We all would clown anyways because I was raised around all races. But when I wasn't able to swim, and then when my uncle finally came and he said, "Oh, they didn't let you swim because you're not white." And that stayed in me. Yeah. And the minute I realized, that got in me, and I took that on a little bit into my teenage years. But to hold up real quick, when you guys first asked me, I started thinking about that. Then I started thinking about like about a year and something ago, where my mom got held up at knife point.
Yeah.
In broad daylight, two young dudes. Don't even need to mention the races. But my mom's an old little Asian lady, and they like stuck her up.
Yeah.
In the daytime. You know, and took all her money, took her purse. And I even asked her, like, what'd you do? Did you tell anybody? No, I didn't say nothing. And to me, that's where, you know, like I realized, like we were raised, or Asians just typically respond to these things. Like, I'm not going to say anything.
Passive.
Passive, and let's hold our dignity. Let's not bring attention to ourselves.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that I've been posting. That's totally out of my character to post about these things because, again, I think another layer to it is I feel like Asians have hatred towards each other anyways. There's there's like this
because Asians isn't just like a whole, like you say white people, you could say like Irish or whatever, but Asian, it's a bunch of Koreans, Vietnamese, all that.
Yeah. And so no one would probably say this out loud, but Asians have, I feel, at least I've witnessed in my own, like Asians have their own little unsaid, unspoken hierarchy of who's like the greater race.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, you know, like Filipinos, we're considered like the Mexicans of the Asians. You know what I mean? Or saltwater Mexicans. You know what I mean? And people laugh at that stuff, and it's almost funny to always laugh about Asians. I laugh at Asians all the time. So that's why I really didn't have a response, because even when I was gangbanging or whatever, like most of the people that I harmed were Asian. You see, so it's almost hypocritical for me to even like care. But at the same time, I don't think it's hypocritical because I just saw that there's a silence about this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, straight up, and I ain't trying to come after anyone in particular, but all I know is when it was the other, you know, the BLM deal, which, hey, I was at some protest, you know, hey, I was posting some stuff.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you know, you get these, and I'm really coming after, honestly, if I'm coming after anybody, it's like a lot of these Christians that never even been out the house, probably never even had a black friend in their life. All of a sudden, they're like loading up my feed with all this black education and fighting for, you know, this and that. And it's like, to me, it started to become cringy for me because I'm like, okay, so after all this, I really hope, you know, you're going to go and be like friends with blacks. You know, I mean, posting about it is one thing, but what you going to do about it? Yeah. You know, how are you going to live? Who's going to be your circles? What circles you going to be in now? You know, and I ain't trying to act like I have the market on all this, but all I'm saying is it hurts me. The whole reason why I'm posting about it is really just to say, hey guys, I'm hurting about this. Not so much the Asian thing, because there's always going to be hate. But I'm hurting about it is because there's just really like a silence that like all of a sudden it almost makes it feel like, oh, you guys are just Asian. And I even see it outside of the Christian circles where I'll look at like people's comments like, oh, you know, they don't like the blacks, so they're on their own. Or they don't like the Mexicans, so they're on their own. But that hurts me too, because I grew up around all races, which, by the way, everybody should be around.
Multi-race, diversity.
Without it being cool. You know, all of a sudden, everything we do has to be posted about, has to have like a cool element. But like the day-to-day, how you're really living, you know what I mean? You don't need to post about all that stuff, you know? That's a whole side note. But all I'm saying is, you know, all my posting and everything I have to say is just really to express I'm really hurting about it. I'm trying to figure it out because, again, I am straight out. I'm a Christian before I'm an Asian.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I see my mom getting mugged, when I see people on social media getting beat up by all different races. It's not just white. It's not just black. It's not just Mexican, but everyone's beating up on the Asians. All these little old ladies too. And it's like, okay, like, why are you just beating up on old ladies?
Yeah. I think something that I want to input in here is it feels like it's almost becoming trending at this point to where people are seeing it. And you talk about the silence, and it seems like almost out of nowhere, if we weren't really paying attention to it, the Asian community has risen up and has given a voice to the media, the news outlets, all that stuff. But it's almost becoming trendy, and people are seeing it, and like people and like sick people are doing it. It seems like out of attention. And just the post that you did even last night, I'm like, man, what is wrong with the freaking world, dude? It's like, why are you going out of your way to antagonize these people and hurt them? But even talking about the silence that it seems like you even talked about the Asian community has had, it's pretty well known that like the black community has always been like oppressed, and they've always been outspoken. It seems like they've always been outspoken about it, and it kind of hit a peak last year with the Black Lives Matter movement. Kind of talk about, do you think that the Asian community is at a similar place right now where there's going to be this big movement and protests and all this other stuff? Or what do you think is going to happen with everything that is now being surfaced and brought to the forefront of media?
Yeah, I honestly don't feel like it's going to take traction like the way, the black BLM or whatever, because I feel like there's a lack of unity, period, in the Asian community.
Right.
On the real, like if we were to be honest, like within the Asian community, and I already brought that up, there's a hierarchy, and that comes from deep-rooted, nationalistic views.
There's a lot of division. I remember, just really, really quick story. Working at a recreational center, they used to have Batmans in the morning, and I would usually work those shifts. It was literally segregation. They had one side was Korean, the other side was Vietnamese. I'm like, are you guys serious? And then there was always this division. They didn't speak to each other. I could tell they didn't like each other. It was just this weird thing that's going on. So I can understand what you're saying with the division between the Asian community as a whole.
Yeah, that was pretty much our upbringing. Like it's kind of weird because I'm not trying to normalize, having like a certain pride in your race, because straight out, like I said, I was raised around everything but, my grandmother remarried to a Mexican. So for me, I actually more gravitate towards Hispanics. I didn't get what is this? I didn't get exposed to like kicking it with Filipinos until like late in junior high. Wow. But I say this is that it was almost because everyone bags on each other, at least the way I grew up, everyone always clowned like, you Mexican, this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It wasn't racism.
Because there wasn't any hate with it.
There wasn't, because we all kicked it, and we all had each other's backs. But I will say within the Asian community, even when I first, started getting involved with, just street life, like the first people I butt heads with were Koreans. There was a gang, don't need to name the names, but they were all Koreans. And I was 12 years old, getting chased by, dudes with shotguns, and we're like high speed chase through the neighborhood. And I didn't really see it as like, I hate Koreans, but I'm like, oh, those Korean fools are like always trying to kill us. You see what I'm saying? But I didn't turn it into a race thing. It was just like, so that's why I'm really mixed up about it. When it comes to like, how are the Asians going to come together? And I just don't feel like there's enough unity there, because I feel like we, like as a Filipino, we're really a mixed bag when you really think about it. There's Filipinos that claim to be Hawaiian. There's Filipinos that claim to be, they more identify with like black culture, blah, blah, blah. The point is I feel like if we, as our own Asian community, in our own nationality, like it's just unpeace. We need peace in our own identity first before we hit any type of unity, as a whole. Yeah. And I think that's across the board. Even like we look at the church, or we look at, let's just say the church. We should be unified, right? Like, but we have our own mindsets. We have our own, cliques. the popular crowd, the this and that, people that sit here, people that sit there.
A lot of church politics.
Politics, whatever you want to say, right? That kind of hinders community. Right. So to say, like, preach, oh, well, Jesus says, this is how the world will know you, by the love you have one for another. And then you go out onto the plaza or whatever, and it's like you're still separate.
Right.
So that's where I feel like with this Asian community thing, I don't think it's going to take traction because it's not popular.
Yeah. What do you think is going to take traction? What do you think that people can do that maybe even that aren't even Asian can help? I don't know. Help this cause, I guess, and stop the hate. That the hashtag is trending. Stop Asian hate.
I just think it's on an individual level, straight out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think me trying to come out swinging on everybody, like the bottom line is I could only affect the world, my world, and love my neighbor, love the Asians that I'm usually ignore.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm a Christian before I'm Asian. And I'm telling you, like when Filipinos that don't know each other, they'll just walk right by you. Just like Tupac said, we look at each other like two distant strangers. You know what I mean? That resonates with me because when I see Filipinos I don't know at the church, immediately I want to just look the other way. But because of my faith and because I believe like God wants unity, that's when I look to them and say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And then go the extra mile to do something counterculture of my own culture and to reach out to somebody that I typically wouldn't. Because if I saw you at the mall, I didn't know you, I'd probably throw a nod. A white person throw a nod, a black person throw a nod. A Filipino, I'm like looking the other way.
Yeah.
And that's...
why is that exactly?
I think we just hate on each other.
Really?
Yeah. I think we just hate on each other. And I know that happens in other cultures because I would talk about it with other cultures too, and they say, "Oh, we're like that too." It's almost competitive. It's almost like I was here first. You know what I mean? And you see it. It's just like an unsaid competition that we have with one another in Asian culture. Again, it's the superiority. So that's why this whole thing is layered for me. On one side, I don't even want to care. On one side, I want to hate. On the other side, I kind of want to be like a wannabe little mini activist like everybody else was about 3-4 months ago. But I've made the decision to say no, I just want to express that I'm hurt about it, the silence. What do I expect people to do? No, just love.
Yeah.
After all this, let's just love each other. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I want to hate, but I can't. I don't want to hate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to clown on. It's so easy to clown on us. You know what I mean? It's for whatever reason, like Asian jokes are probably the easiest ones to come. We're like a target for that stuff. The little tiny old little Chinese looking. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever. Hey, I do it too. I do. I ain't gonna front with you, but just this silence really made me feel. Is the right word devalued?
Yeah, sure. Devalued.
Devalued as a person because again, I've looked at different church feeds, looked at high-end pastors, if there's such a thing. You don't see nothing.
Right. Oh, man, that is actually a good point because even when all the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on, this is something that you're bringing up right now, and I'm barely realizing it. Churches aren't talking about this like they were talking about Black Lives Matter, exactly. Like posting the black picture on the Instagram feeds, talking about it in churches, having panel discussions about it. They're not talking about it like they were that. It doesn't have the hype. It doesn't have the traction that you were saying, man.
And you said it. It was, to me, it just became hype.
Yeah.
And I mean, for real, this is me being self-deprecating to myself, if that's even a word. I think it is. Putting myself down, which I'm used to doing anyways as an Asian, kind of taking that back seat. It's I'm very quick to accept that. We're just Asian.
I was talking to Ryan Johnson about this, and a big idea that he had was that media is very quick and very much wants to push this agenda of like everything is about race. These crimes are all about race. What do you think about that? Do you think that the media wants to make everything about race and fit that into the agenda of like, oppression and all this stuff? Or what do you think that they should be talking about instead if not?
Yeah, I mean, I would say media isn't helping.
Yeah. In what way?
But see, media isn't helping to cure this, which I don't think it can anyways. Even me posting really isn't going to do anything, right? Other than just kind of express how I'm feeling about it. Because I didn't want to be silent about it, although it's very opposite of when I usually don't post that stuff, and I pretty much don't even want to be on social media right now anyways. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, the reason why I'm saying media isn't helping what has already existed throughout the beginning of our known world. Mm-hmm. Straight out. Our whole world as we know it was built upon colonization, upon nationalism. All the wars that all the big wars were all about just, one race dominating another, one nation dominating another. So it's always been there. And so, like, that's why I'm going back to an individual level. If we all hit this in our own hearts, I mean, yeah, the protesting, whatever, like awareness, okay, that's great. But I would hope that we all, whether Christian, non-Christian, Asian or not, like really check ourselves and be honest with ourselves of what kind of love are we really showing our fellow man? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I will say this for those that represent spirituality or religion or Christianity, we're in the forefront. People are looking at us, to say, to see how we love our fellow man, how we care for our fellow man, and that's why I really do give you big ups, for real. You reached out to me to see how I felt because I didn't really know how I felt. Honestly, at that time, I really didn't care. That was me going into default, like, whatever, just don't come by me. I will knock you out type mentality. Don't touch me. Yeah. I'm not that Asian. I'm not that dude that you're going to come at. You know what I mean? And, Carlos and Julius, like hitting me up. Like that was like what I'm talking about. That was real love and real care. Yeah. And it was out of the blue. It really shocked me that you guys asked me that. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect that. Right. And so if we spread that type of love and care just to like check up on people, I really feel like that type of love, that's the type of love that changes the world, like one person at a time, really. Yeah.
I feel that. It's just that what you're talking about now brought up this idea of like, I reached out to you because I care and I wanted to know what you thought about it. I wanted to know if you were hurting or you felt like you've experienced some of the things that have happened, and to compare and contrast to the Black Lives Matter movement, I guess. That's what we did, and that's what we should have done to our Black brothers and sisters and ask them, hey, how does this stuff make you feel? Like, what are you going through? And there's a lot of people that, not a lot, but there was a few people I talked to who were like, yeah, I mean, stuff happens, but we don't have to make it this big old race thing. I guess you could say, like, it's not like I'm a slave. It's not like my rights are extremely infringed upon, I guess you could say. And then there's this other side where it's like, I can't do anything. I can't go outside and do all this other stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know even where I'm going with this sentence, but it's just weird.
I like what you're saying because I'm sorry to cut you up, but I have to say this. Whether you have something to say about it or not, say something so we could talk about it.
Right.
But like if you're, just because you're not an Asian, or just say you're white, which I don't care what you are, say something like, let me know how you're feeling, or at least can we talk about this? Right.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's kind of where I was going, where it's like there were other people in the Black community where if you felt indifferent, or you felt like it's not a big race issue, it's not that big of a deal, where they're like forcing kind of other Black brothers and sisters to be like, no, it is a big deal. You should be standing up. You should be protesting. You should be going out on the streets and, doing all the crazy stuff and all this other stuff, which I don't think that's right to force that on people to where it's like, which is one of the reasons where I ask you, because I honestly didn't know where you were on that spectrum, whether it's like, you're like, no, I haven't experienced that. Or maybe it's like, dude, I've been experiencing this. I've just been silent about it.
Yeah.
Which I think that is important. You brought up the point to check on your friends when this stuff is going on in the news. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, on the real, like, I like that you said that, because I remember when I was posting a lot about BLM or Black Lives, it was almost like my black friends would get at me, like on DM or even, just straight up on the comments, like as if now I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Or it's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
Like straight out, like some of these friends that I have, like, really never experienced what they call, what is it, overt or overt? They just never experienced racism in their face.
Yeah.
I have. I've had, stuff with the law, everything like that. But it was like all of a sudden, because I'm not black, although I have 0.1 sub-Saharan African in me, because I'm not black, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And so what did that make me do? Okay, I ain't gonna say nothing. My support was silent now, because I felt like I got shut out.
Yeah.
When I too experienced racism myself. And it's not about race, it's just about hate. It's about hate. And so like for me, I don't expect anyone to do anything. I just expect people to at least understand, like if I'm talking about this, understand I'm hurting about it, or I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying not to hate. I'm trying to expose the darkness that's trying to come into my heart, and talking to people that I believe that I could just be free with, and because I don't really believe that we're going to cure something that's always existed, but we can at least help it some way, somehow, like I said, one person at a time, because I'm going to give an account to God and to my family and to those that, I somehow one way or another influence. And I want them to see that as much as I want to hate, because I've been affected personally, seeing my mom go through that, seeing me go through that. Because I'm telling you, before, a lot of my hate, a lot of my own violence that I've done, don't even need to talk about, was because of the hate that I experienced when I was that 9-year-old kid. You know what I mean? That image of holding that towel, like, is forever stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And it hurts me, to still hear the things that were going around me at that time. And I was confused, and so when my uncle finally got me and said, the reason why you're not swimming is because you're not white. That stuck with me. And then everything else I did after that, my anger towards whites from a young child, although I had best friends that were white, whatever, but it was those that would, the minute that they would make fun of me because of my tie-dyes, or, at the time I was a lot skinnier, I'm lanky, tie-dyes, little Asian kid.
Yeah.
I've had many times like that, to where they would gang up on me and they didn't realize, like, I actually knew how to take care of myself. And I've committed crimes. I've hurt people. I have hurt people, baseball bats and everything.
Yeah.
Because of them picking on me. Like I said, I'm passive. I was passive. I'm just kicking it. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden, a group of dudes want to come up, and make fun or say something or whatever. I was in Orange County in the 80s when it was all whites. My white friend moved out there. So he was a best friend since I was 8 years old. And San Clemente, late at night, we went to go eat at one of these spots. And, we're leaving, and these 3 white people come out, and this girl comes out, and she's like, "Get out of here, you Orientals."
Wow.
And I'm like, what the heck? And she went up to me. She's like hitting me in the head with her finger. And I passive, I'm like, please stop. You don't know, like, who you're messing with. Just stop.
Yeah.
And then one of those knuckleheads had to say who, and it was over. I mean, there was like, not realizing there's like 15 heads. There's like 15 of us out there rolled straight from Carson, and and we're brutalizing him while the whole eating place is looking out the window, you know, and that was hate.
Yeah. Do you feel like, how long ago was that?
That was in the 80s. I was like 16, 17.
Do you feel like your kids or any of your family have experienced that recently, like in the past, like, I don't know, 5 years or so?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought up my kids. So that's the thing that hurts me even double, is that my kids are seeing this.
Wow.
Yeah, they experience it out on the water. When the BLM thing happened, I remember we were walking on the what is this? On the boardwalk. We were trying to cross the street, and like these, you know, this white dude, like literally, we're right about to get off the curb, and this dude like jams in his truck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's like, move, you know, and it wasn't straight out like, okay, he didn't say anything about race.
Yeah.
But everything was so highlighted and magnified around that time anyways. Like, really, like, it's a stop sign, bro. And I know in my mind, the very first thought was like, hey, why is this, you know, why white people so rude?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it hurts me because I know my kids see this, or even all this Asian stuff. Like, I didn't even know about it until my kids saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell them, like, stop looking at this stuff, because it's just going to piss you off. It's just going to make you hurt. And it's hard. It's hard for me to see them want to hate as well.
Yeah.
And they're young. They're around the age when I was doing the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, you know, I'm trying to, like, show them, like, well, as much as I want to hate, as much as I want to be crazy, like, there's no future in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no future in it, because
I think that's what a lot of the media is trying to get us to do, is divide races against each other. Like I talked about it before, where it's like media wants to push this narrative, I guess, that all white people, they just hate every race that's not white.
Right.
They hate all the blacks. They're hating on Asians and all this other stuff. And I think that's important that you're telling your kids this stuff, like not to pay attention to that stuff and not to buy too much into it.
Yeah.
Even though it's still real. Like, don't say like racism isn't alive. It is for sure. Mm-hmm. But don't buy into the narrative that all white people are terrible and they hate right. Asian people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and that's funny, because I'm glad that you say that, because when I could tell that they were struggling with that, I would say maybe a year ago or whatever, man, like, music is big in our home. Mm-hmm. And I would have to, like, refocus them. Like, even for me, again, like, I hope people out there ain't, actually, I don't care, because if you're going to misread what I'm saying, then that's on you. But all I'm saying is, like, music is big in our home.
Yeah.
The most artists I love are white, are black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't, like, if I'm going to be a purist, it's like, okay, just listen to Chinese music, Filipino music. I don't think so. You know, so it's kind of like, I had to, like, help them understand, like, all white people, all black people, you know, yeah, you're right. The media is portraying like it's like whites, blacks that are wreaking havoc on Asians. You know, and people are throwing percentages and stuff like that of, like, all the different races that are, like, targeting Asians. Yeah. I'm not buying into that. It's just hate. I just see it all as hate. You know, I'm not going to leave this podcast or leave this room, go out into the world and like hate people. If there's anything I want you to, like, I want to leave with is saying, I'm struggling with this because of the silence. I'm struggling with this because, as a Christian, or as even just a human, I want to revert back and hate people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially those that don't have nothing to say about it. Or those that just kind of brush it off. But I'm like, I won't. I'm making the conscious choice to still love, you know, to still care. I mean, you know, and not to, like, paint everybody with the same picture. I mean, paint everybody with the same brush.
Yeah, I think that's important. Something that I saw recently, talking about painting everyone with the same brush and talking about not hating people. Something I saw recently was, I think it was two, and I was just scrolling, so I didn't check the full legitimacy of this. I was just scrolling, and I saw that there was this article where it said 2 black guys set a white dude on fire. I think it was racially motivated just because he was white. And that doesn't cause me seeing that, and, you know, I'm just taking it as truth and assuming that that's a real story. That doesn't cause me to go and hate black people at all. I just see that, like, I see all these other things, even like talking about the stuff that's happening in Myanmar, whatever it is, it's all hate, man.
That's it.
It's all hate. It's all sin at the end of the day. And, you know, racism is a sin, but it's like, man, the world needs Jesus. The world needs help.
Yeah.
And if we go with this driven narrative that everything is off race, Asian, black, white, Mexican, Indian, whatever it is, we're going to all end up divided.
Yeah.
And we saw that in 2020 a lot of division. So, yeah, man.
No, I just think, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not just, scratch the just, but I'm just saying it's all races have, like, their thing, you know, their bad side to it, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. Just trying to be real right here without being fake real.
Mm-hmm.
We all have hate inside of us, one time or another.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be with family members, other races, whatever. Like, so that's the thing we need to, like, eliminate in our heart. Because it's not, like I said earlier, it's not just white people hurting Asians.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just blacks either. It's just whoever is being crazy that day.
Yeah.
You know, it's hate. It's sin, just like you said, you know. And that's why on an individual level, I'm really choosing representing myself, my family, as a Filipino or whatever. It's like, let me check myself where I'm at with this. Am I going to buy into this, like, unsaid hierarchy, you know, within the Asians and just kind of like, oh, y'all, you're on your own, or like, I'm going to bow down to you because you think you're better. No, I'm just going to love individual at a time. That's what I'm choosing to do. Because, like, on the real, like I said earlier, it's layered because I don't want to care. You know, if it's Chinese, I'm part Chinese, for real, part Chinese. I should be, like, pissed off about this, but, you know, to hear people say, like, F China or whatever, blah, 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 like, it doesn't really hit me. And is it something I'm blocking out? No, it's just like, I'm just aware that we just hate each other.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to go there. I'd rather just love, you know?
That's good, man. That's good. I like that a lot. Do you have before we wrap up, do you have anything else you want to add, or do you feel like that was a good conversation? Maybe a closing thought.
No, I don't know. I feel like we said a lot.
We did say a lot.
I feel like we said a lot, and no, I mean, we just need to figure out within ourselves, like, what creates unity. Like, for reals, like, what really creates unity in our real world outside of social media. Because I don't really feel like just posting stuff. I'm on private, so it's not like the whole world sees everything. And I don't have like a buttload of followers anyway, so whoever sees it, sees it.
Yeah.
For this case, maybe, like, go off private. I don't know. Anyways, the point is it's we have to be honest with ourselves of how we really feel about people, period. People that are not like us, people that are not the most popular, people that look funny, you know, whether it be on a Christian level or a human level. We have to really be honest that there are, like, one thing that I will say is it's almost like we create this language to make it okay to kind of not go out of our boundary. You know, like, well, you're not really meant to love everybody. Yeah, oh, actually, you're not really meant to be friends with everybody, but you must love everybody. Like, it's kind of like, who said that? I mean, we really should love people. Well, it's okay to not like them, but you got to love them. Like, I don't ever really understand that.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's almost like it's excusing you to really step out of your comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing I never really understand. And so for me, we just have to really be honest and say, like, why don't I like that person?
Yeah.
You know, and that's not something you need to post about. That's something that you really need to think within yourself. Like, why is there a block there? Just because maybe he's smarter than you, maybe he looks different than you, maybe he's ugly, maybe, you know, whatever. But that's something I'm working on with myself. Is I want to be able to, like, you know, be able to have conversation with anybody. I want to be able to go to lunch with anybody without feeling like, oh man, this is gonna be awkward, whatever. Straight out. And so that's what I'm working on with myself. I feel like sometimes I have a good handle on it, but it's those moments that I have to really be honest with myself and say, I don't have a good handle on it. I feel like I'm swerving this dude. You know, I feel like I'm looking at him different, you know, and that's where I'm being honest with myself. Is we're really quick to kind of like go gravitate towards those that I feel like it's going to be as less work as possible.
Yeah. You feel like you want to gravitate towards the easy relationships rather than the ones that's going to take some work.
Right. But that's beauty. I mean, the beauty of I would say relationships are the hardest thing. Relationships, whether it be marriage relationships, friendships, you know, whatever. Those are the hardest things because it's really a giving of yourself and of your time, and you can't fake it. And I think that's why a lot of relationships fail, is because it always gets to that point of like, oh my God, I really have to be real here. I have to be vulnerable here. I have to be, dang, we're getting to that next level where it's like, I need to like really let him in my life.
Yeah.
And then most oftentimes than not, it's like, let me like kind of ease up on this so it'll just stay in that little comfort.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying, oh, we got to sleep at everybody's houses and like love everybody. I get it. There's like inner circle language and outer circle. Again, it's just language that makes us feel comfortable. But I don't really believe as humans or as Christians, we're not meant to be comfortable.
Right.
You know, especially when it comes to relationships.
Relationships, they could take up something that just came up within me. You talk about how it could take a lot of work. People get to that point where it's like, oh, you're asking for way more time than I'm comfortable giving you. You're asking for way more time than I actually want to give you or care for you. And time becomes a big thing. Burden becomes a big thing if people are going through it and you're like, I don't really want to talk to you about all the stuff that you're going through. I don't want to care for you. I don't want to give you my time. I don't want to give you my advice. I don't want to give you my attention, because then you have to check yourself and you have to say, wait, I feel this way. Does that mean I don't really care about people?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I not really care about people enough to give them 30 minutes, an hour of my time to make them feel loved and cared for? I think that's a really big thing. We have to look at yourself when you start getting those feelings towards people that take a lot of effort and energy, more than you're comfortable with, to care about.
Right.
And have a relationship with. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you said that, because that's where it just, again, going back to, you got to be honest with yourself and honest with that other person. Because I could say I talked to a handful of people, you know, and I hate to use this word busy, because I'm sure everybody's busy, but I know I'm pretty much scheduled out.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest with those people and say, like, I want to care for you and I'm here for you, but straight up, brother, like, I got school, I got kids, blah, blah, blah. But hey, I have like 30, 40 minutes. I just want to like hear you out, you know, or let me just be a friend.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, no, but I need you for like 10, 15 hours. Then that's when you're really honest and be like, I can't, bro. Like, for real, you're going to ask me for 10, 15 hours. I mean, like, you have to have that relationship.
Right.
You know, but I think we as people lose when we just are not adult about it.
There still has to be boundaries.
Right.
Right. You're talking about 10, 15 hours. That's ridiculous.
Right. Well, hey, all I'm saying is there's people that expect that type of stuff, which there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. Like, expect that. Great. But since you're expecting that and you're being real with me, let me be real with you real quick. You know what I mean? And I think that's our responsibility as people that feel like we have these like kind of like truths of like how to, how to be with people or whatever. Like it's up to us to like set that tone too.
Yeah.
But we lose, what I was about to say is we lose when we like, oh my God, he wants 15 hours. Dang, he's texting me. Dang it, he's calling me. Ignore for like 3 weeks later.
Right. You can't do that either.
Yeah. And so you have to just hit that awkward. What's better? Like just like swerve them for 15 days. And then all of a sudden when you see each other again, it's like, man, you're a jerk. You don't care. Or at least be honest and run the risk of saying, you're a jerk because, you just told me you only have like 45 minutes. I'm like, hey, man, I'm being real with you, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's all I have right now. And if I have more, I'll give you more. And maybe slide in like, hey, you grown. You can like you need to start handling yourself a little bit. Right? I mean, I know it's totally, off topic, but it still boils down to love, and relationship. It takes work, so.
Yeah, that's good. That was a fantastic conversation. We might have broken the record for longest podcast episode so far. I think Micah Vargas held that, but it was all good. It was all good content. I hope you guys listening and watching enjoyed it. Rodney, where can the people follow you on Instagram if you want to throw that out there?
Dang, like that. Outsider 24601.
But he's on private, so you might not get accepted as a follower.
That is true.
But that doesn't hurt to try. Thank you guys for listening, watching again. If you are on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment something that you want to talk about this video in the comments section, whether you liked it, you loved it, you had something that you agreed with or disagreed with. I want to hear it all. If you're listening on any podcast platform, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And we will see you on the next one. COVID fist bump. Almost forgot. So we're out of COVID. Peace.